Hi, my name is Emma. I'm 68 years old. And if there's one thing I've learned in this life, it's that love and pain often come from the same place, family. I live in a quiet little town called Cedar Hill, tucked away between pine trees and winding roads in southern Oregon. It's not the kind of town that makes headlines, but it's the kind that remembers you. Folks here still wave when they pass your porch. And the cashier at the corner store knows your coffee creamer better than you do. For 30 years, I managed a craft supply shop called Bennett's Crafts. My husband Hank and I built that place from scratch. He passed away 7 years ago. Heart attack. In the garage. Just like that. Gone. We were married 42 years. And to this day, I still reach for his mug every morning. We bought this house when I was pregnant with my first daughter. It's a 2-story fixer-upper with creaky stairs and a porch swing that squeaks when the wind hits just right. Hank planted maple trees in the backyard that turn fire red every October. I've tried to keep things up as best I can. But age doesn't do your knees any favors. I have 2 daughters. Claire, the older one, is the picture of stability. She owns a hair salon downtown, married her high school sweetheart, and has 2 smart, kind kids. She always paid her own way, even when we begged to help. And then there's Sophie. Sophie is my youngest, and she's always lived life a little out of rhythm. She paints for fun, changed college majors more times than I can count, and married a man who thought loyalty was optional. That ended, as you'd expect. Now she's raising my grandson Eli on her own. He's 10, loves dinosaurs, and has my husband's green eyes. Sophie's had a tough time landing steady work. Her resume is like a patchwork quilt, colorful, but full of holes. She's been couch hopping, paycheck to paycheck, always chasing a fresh start that somehow feels more like another dead end. Every Wednesday and Saturday, Ellie comes over. We bake, garden, or do schoolwork. Sometimes, he just sits with me in the sunroom and reads. It's the highlight of my week. But last Thursday, Sophie knocked on my door. Alone. No Ellie. And from the look on her face, I knew something was wrong. Deeply wrong. And that moment was when everything started to change. She sat at my kitchen table like a child who'd just broken a window. Hands curled around a mug of chamomile she wasn't drinking. Her eyes were swollen. Her lips tight. Like she'd rehearsed this conversation in the mirror and still didn't know how to begin. I hate asking, Mom, but I'm in a tough spot. Sophie's voice cracked. I didn't say anything yet. I knew better. When she needed help, she never asked outright. She painted the picture first, always the long road to the real ask. There was a leak in the ceiling again. Landlord said it's my fault, because I left the bathroom fan off too long. Eli's mattress is soaked. We've been crashing at my coworker Marla's apartment for 3 nights. Eli's not sleeping. He's got a spelling test tomorrow. I nodded slowly. My heart tightened. She looked like she wanted to disappear inside her coat. I found a new place. 2-bedroom. Close to Eli's school. It even has a little balcony. But they want first and last month's rent. Plus à déposit. She laughed. But it was bitter. That's $2. Babe. I only have $600. I stared at the ceramic apple-patterned sugar jar in the center of my kitchen table, the one Hank had given me for our 30th anniversary. My thumb grazed the chip on its rim. I'd paid for her car repair 3 months ago. Covered her utility bills last winter. Loaned her grocery money more times than I cared to count. And now I looked into her eyes, blue like mine. Only darker. Always hiding something. I saw the desperation. But beneath it, a quiet expectation. "Sophie," I said gently. "I want to help. I do. But I can't keep digging into what little I have left." She looked down. Silent. "What about Eli's dad?" I offered carefully. She shook her head fast. "Gordon said he's between gigs." "Again. He says maybe next month. But Eli can't live on maybe." Her voice cracked. And there it was, that same look she wore when she totaled Hank's truck at 16. When she admitted she was pregnant. When she stood on my doorstep in the rain after Gordon left. Fear. Shame. And something worse. Hope. That was the hardest part. "Is this place safe?" I asked finally. "It's decent," she whispered. "It's not perfect. But it's better than where we were." Eli would have his own room. I sighed. In that moment, I wasn't thinking numbers or logic. I was just a mother looking at her daughter. And I knew I was going to find a way to say yes, even if it meant giving up more than I'd planned. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed, staring at the popcorn ceiling Hank and I had painted together in '92. Every creak in the house felt louder than usual. Every shadow on the wall looked like a memory. I kept thinking, what happens when I'm gone? Sophie's never had roots. She moves like she's always chasing something: freedom, stability. I don't even know anymore. But Eli, he deserves more than bouncing between apartments and hand-me-down furniture. He deserves something permanent. I got up at 5:00 a.m., made coffee, and pulled out the old manila folder from the drawer in my secretary desk. Our mortgage papers, insurance, savings account statements. It didn't take a calculator to realize I didn't have the money to keep playing emergency fund forever. But I had one thing left: the house. Paid off. 2 stories. Backyard. Close to Eli's school. It wasn't much by big city standards. But in Cedar Hill, it meant something. It meant security. That afternoon, I called Carl Daniels, the real estate attorney who helped Hank and me buy this place 38 years ago. I asked if I could come in and talk. He said, "Of course. Emma, you always have a seat here." His office still smelled like lemon furniture polish and burnt coffee. His desk hadn't moved an inch since the '80s. "I want to transfer the house to Sophie," I told him. "But I need to retain the right to live here for the rest of my life." He leaned back, raised an eyebrow, then nodded slowly. "A life estate deed," he said. "Perfectly legal. You'd keep the right to stay in the home as long as you're alive. She'd be the legal owner. But she can't evict you." That sounded safe. Sounded generous. Sounded like love. Still, Carl hesitated. "Emma, I've known you a long time. Are you sure Sophie's ready for this kind of responsibility?" I hesitated too. No. I wasn't sure. But I was sure about Eli. And I was sure about giving my daughter one more chance, maybe her last, to get it right. "I'm not doing it for her," I said. "I'm doing it for Eli." He nodded. "We can draw it up. But just remember, once this is signed, the house is legally hers. She can borrow against it. Even sell it. Just not kick you out." I signed the paperwork 3 days later. Carl slid the folder across the table with a quiet kind of finality. I held it in my hands. The weight of a lifetime. I had no idea that the house I just gave away would soon no longer feel like home. Sophie didn't say much the day I handed her the signed papers. Just stared at them like they were written in another language. Then she hugged me. Hard. The kind of hug that's more about relief than love. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered. "You don't know what this means." I smiled and told her I did. And I thought I did. That weekend, Eli came over as usual. We baked oatmeal cookies and watched an old sci-fi movie he barely paid attention to. He was busy assembling a tiny replica of the Mars rover. Bright kid. Big dreams. Deserved a safe place to grow up. Sophie was supposed to come by to pick him up at 6. She showed up at nearly 8. Distracted. Phone buzzing in her pocket. "Sorry I'm late," she said, barely looking up. Meeting ran long. "What meeting?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Real estate thing," she mumbled. "Just checking out options." I felt a knot form in my chest. Later that night, while clearing dishes, Eli looked up at me and asked, "Grandma, are we still gonna live close to you when we move?" I froze. That's how I found out Sophie had already started looking for a new apartment, one she hadn't told me about. The next week, I came home from the craft shop early and saw a silver SUV parked in the driveway. A man in a blazer stood beside it, holding a clipboard. Sophie was leading him around the backyard like a tour guide. I stepped out onto the porch. "Can I help you?" The man looked startled. "Hi. Mom. I'm Brad Keller, Sophie's real estate agent. We're just evaluating the property." "Evaluating," I repeated. Sophie turned, her smile faltering. "It's just an appraisal." "Mom, nothing's happening yet." "But why would you need an appraisal if you weren't?" She cut me off gently. "I'm just exploring possibilities." "Okay," my voice dropped. "You promised." "No." "Mom," she said, suddenly firm. "You gave me the house? You said it was for Eli's future. That's what I'm trying to build here." The words stung more than I expected. She walked back toward Brad, leaving me on the porch holding my breath. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch with Hank's old flannel shirt wrapped around me, wondering when my gift of love turned into a transaction. Wondering if, in trying to secure a future for Sophie and Eli, I had just erased my own. And deep inside, a quiet dread took root. This wasn't just about losing a house. I might be about to lose my daughter too. It started with the wallpaper. I came home one afternoon and heard footsteps upstairs, heavy. Unfamiliar. I rushed up the stairs to find 2 strangers peeling the floral paper off what used to be Claire's childhood bedroom. "Excuse me," I said, louder than I meant to. One of the workers looked over. "Oh, Miss Bennett scheduled renovations. We're updating the space for resale." Resale. I stood there, trying to breathe, while the walls that once held my daughter's giggles and teenage heartbreaks were stripped bare. When I called Sophie, she didn't answer. When I texted her, "Why are you renovating? Stop this." Her reply came 5 minutes later. "Don't interfere. It's for the house's value." That night, she came by with a man in a navy suit. I was sitting in the dark living room when they walked in. "Mom, this is Mr. Lang," she said brightly, like she was introducing a date. "He's interested in buying the house." I didn't move. "Mr. Lang gave me a polite smile. "Beautiful home, Mrs. Bennett." I didn't smile back. "Yes, it was." Sophie pulled him toward the kitchen. "We'll just be a few minutes." "Mom." They walked the halls like tourists, talking about layout changes, natural light, and closet space. I sat in my chair, staring at the fireplace where Hank and I used to hang stockings for the girls each Christmas. When they came back down, Sophie looked pleased. "He's going to make an offer by Friday." I didn't respond. Later, when we were alone, she turned to me with a tone she hadn't used since she was a teenager, condescending. "Impatient? Mom, you're being dramatic." You'll still have a place to live. I've already looked into apartments closer to town. Single floor. No stairs. You'll be safer there. I looked her dead in the eyes. This is my home. It was, she said softly. Now it's mine. Legally. Her voice was cool, but her hands trembled. Maybe guilt. Maybe nerves. I couldn't tell anymore. I trusted you. I whispered. I didn't ask for your trust. She snapped. I needed a future. And that was it. The girl I had rocked to sleep, who scraped her knees on this driveway and cried on my shoulder after her first heartbreak, was now looking at me like I was just in the way. As she turned to leave, she paused at the door. Thanks for everything, Mom, she said without meeting my eyes. But this is just how life works now. I didn't answer, because in that moment, I realized something unbearable. I had given her the house, but somehow, I'd lost my home. I don't remember packing. I remember the silence. The way the hallway echoed as I pulled my suitcase behind me. The photos on the wall still there, but suddenly distant, like they belonged to someone else. Claire opened the door before I even knocked. She must have seen me from the kitchen window. She was wearing her favorite apron, the one with the little sunflowers, and her eyes were already glassy. Mom, what happened? I tried to speak, but the words caught somewhere between my throat and my heart. Instead, I just cried. Claire didn't ask anything more. She wrapped her arms around me like I was the child. And she was the mother. She led me into the living room, placed a blanket over my shoulders, and handed me a cup of tea with honey just the way I used to make it for her. Tim, her son, peeked around the corner. Want me to get the guest room ready? He asked softly. Please, Claire said. I stayed silent the rest of the night. Claire didn't push. She just sat beside me, stroking my hand as if trying to calm a frightened bird. The next morning, I finally told her everything. The paperwork, the renovations, the realtor, Mr. Lang, and finally, Sophie's words, thanks for everything. Mom, but this is how life works now. Claire sat stiffly on the couch, her jaw clenched. When I finished, she stood up so quickly, the teacup rattled on its saucer. I always knew she was irresponsible. She snapped. But this is monstrous. Claire, no. Mom, you gave her everything. And she gave you an eviction notice. She doesn't deserve your love. I wanted to defend Sophie, but I couldn't find the strength. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Later that day, Claire called Carl Daniels to see if anything could be done. He was kind, but honest? Yes. Emma as a life estate. But the deed was vague. If Sophie provides equivalent housing, she's within her rights to relocate her mother. Claire's face darkened. You mean she can legally kick her out? Carl hesitated. Technically, yes. When we left his office, it had started to rain. Claire held the umbrella over me, her other hand gripping mine. Like she might lose me too if she let go. Don't worry, Mom, she said. You're not going anywhere. You'll stay with us, as long as you need. I nodded, too tired to argue, but inside, something had fractured. I didn't just feel displaced. I felt erased from my own life, by my own child. Sophie didn't call. Not the next day. Not the next week. But the town did. Cedar Hill wasn't known for its privacy. Word spread like dandelion seeds in the wind. By Monday, the cashier at Murphy's Market was handing me change with a sympathetic smile. On Wednesday, The woman from the church knitting circle accidentally dropped by Claire's salon, just to ask if I was holding up okay. Even at the craft store. My sanctuary. I could feel the soft whispers when I walked past. The way Eleanor, my boss, gave me longer breaks than usual and offered to cover my shifts. They're saying Sophie kicked you out, she said gently one afternoon, resting a hand on my arm. I didn't confirm it. I didn't deny it either. What would be the point? Claire tried to keep me busy. We cooked together, reorganized her spice cabinet. She even dragged me to a yoga class for seniors where I mostly sat on the mat and stared at the ceiling fan. Still, the ache didn't ease. I'd wake up expecting to hear my back door creak open. I'd reach for the blue mug Hank always used, only to realize it was still in a box, one of 5 cardboard boxes containing my entire life, now stacked neatly in Claire's guest room closet. One evening, after dinner, Claire came into my room holding a white envelope. This came in the mail today, she said. Addressed to you. Postmarked last week. Inside was a formal invitation to Cedar Hill's annual Heritage Dinner, the same community banquet I'd attended every October for 25 years. It was a night of pot roast and speeches, awkward dancing and 2 sweet pie. But this year, the thought of showing up felt unbearable. Everyone would know, or worse, pretend they didn't. I'm not going, I said quietly. Claire sat beside me. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Mom. I didn't respond. That same night, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Bennett, a man's voice said on the line. This is Principal Howe from Cedar Hill Elementary. I'm sorry to bother you, but we can't reach Sophie. Eli's refusing to go home. He's been waiting in the office for 2 hours. He says he wants to stay with you. I stood up, my heart pounding. I'll be right there, because no matter what, I'd lost titles, property, dignity. There was one role I hadn't lost. I was still his grandmother, and he still needed me. Eli was sitting on the front steps of the school, hugging his backpack like it was the only thing holding him together. When he saw me, he stood up slowly, his shoulders sagging with the kind of exhaustion no 10-year-old should carry. Grandma, he said, walking toward me. I don't want to go home. I crouched down to his level, brushing the hair from his forehead. Sweetheart, what's going on? He hesitated. Mom said we're moving again. Some new place downtown. But I heard her on the phone. She said she's selling our house. The one you gave her? I felt something twist in my stomach. She said you were going to live in an apartment. He added, that it's better for you. But I don't believe her. I didn't know what to say. Not yet. Just then, headlights pulled into the parking lot. Sophie's car. She jumped out, looking more panicked than I'd ever seen her. Eli, I've been looking everywhere for you. You didn't answer your phone, I said, holding his hand. I was in a meeting with the designer, she said, brushing past the explanation. Let's go. Honey, I want to stay with Grandma, Eli said softly. Sophie froze. Sweetie, she said, her voice cracking. You know we talked about this. We're moving into a new place. You'll have your own room. Remember, I don't want a new place. I want to stay in our house. The real house. With Grandma. Sophie looked at me, eyes pleading. But I wasn't going to make this decision for her. She crouched down, took Ellie's hand. Please, Eli. Let's go home. He nodded reluctantly. Only if Grandma promises I can see her. I smiled. trying to hold back tears. I promise. Sweetheart. Always. They drove off in silence. And I stood there watching until the car disappeared. The next morning, Claire handed me her phone. You need to listen to this. It was Sophie, leaving a voicemail for Claire's husband, Ezra. Mr. Lang pulled out of the deal. He said the whole situation felt wrong, that he didn't want to be part of a family fallout. Now no one wants to touch the listing. I don't know what to do. Claire looked at me across the kitchen table. She's panicking. I didn't say anything, because part of me, the mother part, hurt for her. But another part of me, one I hadn't listened to in years, finally whispered, there are consequences. And this time, I wasn't going to be the one to rescue her from them. 3 days passed. I didn't call Sophie, and she didn't call me. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was the kind that presses on your chest when you're lying awake at night, wondering what comes next. Then, just before midnight on a rainy Thursday, the doorbell rang. Claire and I looked at each other. She got up first, with Ezra close behind her. A moment later, Claire stepped back into the living room, her expression hard to read. It's Sophie, she said softly. She's alone. Sophie stepped in looking nothing like herself. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, her eyes puffy and red, her coat soaked from the rain. She clutched a small paper bag in both hands. Hi, she said, barely above a whisper. Claire didn't move. Sophie turned to me. Can I talk to you, please? I nodded. And she followed me into the den. We sat on the edge of the couch, like two people who used to be close but forgot how to be. She set the bag on the coffee table and pushed it toward me. I baked banana bread, she said with a sad smile. You used to make it for me when I had nightmares. I didn't touch the bag. She took a deep breath. I messed up. I know that. I thought, if I could sell the house, I could start fresh, pay off debt, give Ellie stability. But I ended up losing everything. The buyers are gone. The bank won't give me a loan. Eli won't talk to me. Tears welled in her eyes. He says he wants to live with Gordon. He says I lied to you, that I'm selfish. And maybe I am. She looked at her lap. Mom, I don't know who I am anymore. I've failed as a daughter, as a mother, and the worst part is, I saw it happening. And I just kept going. I reached out and gently took her hand. You're still my daughter, I said, and Eli is still your son. But you can't undo everything overnight. You have to earn your way back. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I know. That's why I came. She paused, then added quietly, if you'll let me, I'd like to give the house back. I looked at her. Really looked at her. For the first time in weeks, I saw not the manipulator, not the runaway, but the little girl who used to ask for bedtime stories twice just to stay close a little longer. And I realized something. Maybe this wasn't the end of us. Maybe this was the start of something harder but more real. Sophie came back the next morning. This time, she wasn't carrying banana bread or asking for forgiveness. She was holding a folder, legal papers drawn up by Carl Daniels to transfer the house back into my name. She set it on the kitchen table, her hands trembling. I signed everything, she said. It's yours again. No strings. No conditions. I looked at her so fragile, so rough, but honest in a way I hadn't seen in years. I nodded. But I didn't reach for the folder. Come sit, I said. She hesitated, then pulled out a chair across from me. We sat in silence. The kind that lets grief and grace breathe in the same room. I don't want the house back, I said softly. Her eyes widened. But I want us back. I interrupted. I want Eli to grow up in a place where he sees second chances, not permanent failures. She blinked, confused. I want you and Eli to move back in with me. I said, this house is big enough for all of us. And maybe, just maybe, living here together might be what saves it. Sophie looked down at her hands. You'd really let me come back after everything? I smiled. Weary but true. You're still my daughter, and I still believe in you. Claire didn't love the idea. When I told her later that day, she was quiet for a long time. I just don't want you getting hurt again. Mom, she said, you forgave her so fast. No, I said. I'm not forgetting what she did, but I'm choosing to believe she can grow from it. And, slowly, she did. Sophie moved back in 2 weeks later. We rearranged the upstairs bedrooms. She started working part-time at the public library. Eli returned hesitant at first. Then, with more ease each day, there were still rough moments. Days where trust felt fragile. Nights where old wounds resurfaced. But we were trying. And that mattered. Claire came by more often. 2. At first to check on me, then to bring over groceries. Eventually, to stay for dinner. Watching her and Sophie in the same room was like watching a bridge being rebuilt slowly, plank by plank. One evening, as we all sat on the porch, me, Sophie, Eli, and Claire, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Not comfort, not control, but hope. Because family isn't about always getting it right. It's about staying long enough to try again. And this house, with all its cracks and scars, was finally becoming what it was meant to be. A place where we didn't just live. We learned how to heal. Together.